Hi, lovely to have you here. Welcome to the Electro Revolution channel. My name is Michael and I'm a car and tech enthusiast. In this episode, which is episode 2 of a 2-part series, we're going camping in a BYD Atto 3. Now, this episode is a continuation of episode 1. If you haven't seen episode 1, I do invite you to go watch that. It is important to watch it because it is the first part. In this episode, what we'll be doing is we'll be preparing the car technology, which is essentially the console settings within the vehicle, to allow us to sleep comfortably within the car. We'll also go through the next morning as we wake up, and I'll show you a bit around the campsite. I'll review also the night, review the car settings during the air conditioning and climate control overall in the night. And lastly, I'll go through the showroom mode in the BYD Atto 3, which actually I didn't know existed in the car until I actually tested it. So I hope you look forward to watching this episode, and I hope you do enjoy this episode. Now we'll just turn on the vehicle so we can set up the actual system to cater for tonight. Now what we do is we go into the settings. And the main point here is this dynamic colors and rhythm. We turn these things off. That's primarily to stop the ambience and the ambient lighting when we're trying to sleep. Daytime running light we can turn off. The courtesy lights, intelligent courtesy lights, we can turn those off. Instrument cluster, the brightness is actually 0. If you remember on the BYD seal, it actually wouldn't let me do this. We go to the screen, the center screen brightness is 0. And now the important thing we note here is this setting here needs to be external air. And we can have that in the middle and onto the windscreen. So it actually does the external air into the cabin, and it's primarily filtered through the filters that are in the BYD vents. So you'll always essentially get clean air. And at 24 degrees, it's quite reasonable. We can turn this up like that, or we can just leave it on the setting 1, which is actually quite silent when we actually do it that way. And now when we look here on the instrument display, what we see is the current charging capacity is at 700 watts, and that's through the GPO outlet. That's part of the powered site that we're staying at. And if you remember, it was just under 50% when we arrived, but I've had it plugged in ever since, and it's now sitting at 56%. It shows 33 hours to full charge, but end of the day, we're not going to be here for 33 hours. Currently, it's at 18 degrees Celsius. And of course, during the night, we'll have this running consistently, so it won't be a problem. I do expect this to be at about maybe 70% by the time we wake up in the morning, but we'll see how we go. And similar to the seal that we see here, this does have to be on 0. And as you can see, that's when it's on automatic, that's when it's on 0. So it's important we have this on 0 right there so it doesn't have any headlights in the front. And one other note, just before we go to bed, you see here the screen off. This is what we'll get with the Atto. It's a little bit dissimilar to the way the seal does it. The seal actually blacks the entire screen, but this is the best we're going to get with the Atto. And in dark mode, it's not really a problem. But if it is a problem, again, what we can do is just have a simple tea towel just to cover the screen, and the same thing with the instrument display here. We can just cover the screen with just any particular cloth or a piece of clothing, and that'll totally blacken it out. So now it's time to sleep, and I'm really looking forward to this one. It's a little bit of a cold night, but I've got the climate control on in the vehicle. It's on quite a comfortable temperature at the moment, And yeah, hopefully we'll have a good night. So now we've woken up to the next morning, and this is what we actually had for the climate control all night. Was level 2. We put the vent systems essentially on the windscreen and on us, or in the center area of the cabin, and that allowed the air to circulate from the top to the bottom. And looking at the charge now, we can see that it's on 76%. And if you remember from last night, it was on about 50% when we actually slept. It's charging at 0.8 kilowatts, which is on 800 watts. And we've got 16 hours to continue, but this will be more than enough charge to get everything back home. So it won't be a problem even to unplug it now, but I'll leave it charged in until we leave the site. And looking at the outside, you can see I plug it in from here. And just down here is the actual charging unit that they give you, a standard GPO outlet. Nothing special, nothing fancy, but as you could see from the percentages, it does the job. And we're out more in the bush. And if you can hear the actual sound from here, the beach is only about 20 seconds walk there. Quite a beautiful beach. And we are pretty much in the bush. And as you can see here, our fishing rods, gazebo, campsite. A Model Y. And today, you can see the Model 3 and a Kia Carnival. And technically 110. So now just to quickly talk about how the sleep was in the BYD Atto 3 last night, just while it's actually fresh in my mind. Firstly, I would say comparing it to the BYD Seal, it's actually a lot more comfortable, even though there was a reverse in direction between the way I slept in the Seal and here, sleeping in the Atto 3. The actual pillows were right at the end of the boot. So, yeah, there was a difference in direction. I did have to move the seats, these front seats, as front as possible, and that was to give me some leg room, but it also meant that there was a dip in the middle area where my legs were actually placed. I did sleep near my wife. My wife slept also in this vehicle at the same time. As you saw in the climate control, we set it to 24 degrees with the middle vents and the upper vents. But I would say in terms of comparing this with the BYD Seal, now the Seal is a sedan and it would only fit one person, where this one actually was able to fit two people. So it was quite good. Definitely better. I gave the BYD Seal a 5 or 6 out of 10, around that range for the overall experience, even though the vehicle wasn't a problem at all in terms of overall sleeping. Because of the higher roof that you can see above me, it is much, much better to sleep in. There's no issues with leg room or anything like that. That's what I actually enjoyed about it. So I would give this one about a 7 or maybe close to an 8. In terms of a camping experience, yeah, I would go as far as to say it's a 7 or 8 out of 10. So yeah, I would say this isn't a problem at all. In the previous section of the video, I showed you how the campsite's done. There's the Atto 3 here. There's the Model Y next to us, the Tesla Model Y. Next to that, there's a Tesla Model 3, which is Trevor's. And next to that is the Kia Carnival, which is Daniel's. And yeah, we had a nice time overall, a comfortable time. You saw the gazebos where we set it up. There was a little bit of a storm last night, so quite a lot of wind, a little bit of rain, that sort of stuff. But overall, this is a camping experience. It's, getting us away from our creature comforts, maybe appreciating the creature comforts more when you go and rough it up a little bit like this. But overall, in terms of the vehicle, yeah, you can actually sleep in this without a problem. And being a powered site, you saw that even though the climate control was taking battery during the night, it was quite a comfortable sleep overall, and we still were able to have a higher charge. I think the last thing I would say, and I didn't mention this in the previous recording when we were setting up the bed, I did use those gym mats, if you remember, that I used in the BYD Seal. I did use them here just to give us a little bit more harder surface under the actual foam beds. So I guess to make this a little more comfortable, I would now go for the air mattresses that are essentially aftermarket. So I found some on Amazon and stuff, and that would be the next thing to actually make this sleeping arrangement much more comfortable in an Atto 3. But yeah, if you're comparing between now an Atto 3 and a BYD Seal, definitely the Atto 3 is a much more comfortable vehicle to sleep in. One last thing I wanted to actually test in the BYD Atto 3 was actually showroom mode. Now, if you remember from the previous BYD Seal video, I did enable showroom mode, and then I found that while I was sleeping, it didn't actually disable the ambient lighting within the vehicle, which was a problem. So I actually had to turn that off and just leave the vehicle on as normal, have the climate control, and I was able to go through the night like that. But here, I actually haven't tested whether the Atto 3 actually has a showroom mode. So we can test that now. If you remember, it was these two buttons here, holding it down for 10 seconds. So I'll press that now. And maybe it'll work. Now I'll just zoom out so you can see the instrument display and the center console. And there we are. So it says here, the vehicle has entered static outdoor show mode. So essentially what that means is if I try and drive it, it's not actually going to work. But what we can see here, if I just go down here, is this ambient lighting. This is the problem when you're actually trying to sleep, is it keeps flashing and, you know, not turning off, which is a problem. So yes, the Atto 3 does have a showroom mode, and it's something that, yeah, you can use, I guess, if you don't care too much about the ambient lighting. But, you know, to actually take it out of showroom mode, you actually have to turn off the car and turn on the car again. So anyway, that's one test that I wanted to do just before we leave here. So that was the end of episode 2. I really hope you found value in that episode and you found it informative, especially if you're preparing yourself one day to go camping in an EV. Now you'll find there's much more settings in a BYD vehicle to configure for camping mode, different to, say, a Tesla, which has it inherent, just as one particular setting. But nevertheless, it is possible and it is doable, and it's quite comfortable overall. One important note I should mention between both the camping in a BYD Seal and the camping in a BYD Atto 3. Of course, the BYD Atto 3 is much better, and I gave my reasons for that in both videos. But the important thing also is the BYD Seal, when you have it in climate control at 24 degrees and single fan speed or double fan speed, it is actually quite noisier than the BYD Atto 2. That's not something I personally noticed inside the cabin because it was silent, but for the people outside, that's one of the things that they commented on. When I actually enabled the climate control on the BYD Seal on our first set of videos, it was actually quite noisy. And when I did the same thing on the Atto 3, especially Daniel, because he was next to me both times, he said it was actually quiet. He said basically 4 times noisier on the BYD Seal than the Atto 3. And they had essentially the same climate control setting and the same fan speed. So that's something to note also for people that surround you when you're actually camping in a vehicle. So I really do hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, share this content with someone else who'd be interested, or just leave a comment just to say thanks. Remember, It really all helps. I really hope to see you the next time. Until then, bye for now.